Module 1. In our quest for parallel dimensions that will be of the most help, we first have to understand the concept of infinity. Not so easy to do. That word infinity has baffled people for centuries. It's difficult to imagine a never-ending line of events and situations of every type. In an infinite universe, whatever can be imagined is. In an infinite universe, whatever the number, whatever the object, there is always one more. One more million, one more septillion, one more octillion, one more, and then again one more. In an infinite world, there is a multitude of yous. Whoever you are, you're duplicated again and again beyond counting in every form, in every occupation, in every religion, in every time. A never-ending line of facing mirrors. There's a prehistoric you, and a Renaissance you, and a future you. In an infinite universe, there is a young you and an old you, a sick you and a healthy you, a homeless you and a royal you, with a retinue of thousands. Whatever can be imagined is in an infinite universe. In an infinite world, there's a you who's Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Shinto, Jewish, atheist, and every one of the thousands of religions and beliefs that abound. In an infinite world, the Big Bang was not the recreation of the universe, but only an explosion of the implosion of a duplicate universe that had contracted into a singularity and burst out into our dimension, creating the universe as we know it. And what of God in an infinite universe? In an infinite universe, we can come closer to a better understanding of the master of the infinite universe. For God is infinite. All religions accept that. But if you accept the fact that God is infinite, then you must look to infinity itself to comprehend the whys of our confusing world. For if God is infinite, then he is in all, in everything, every universe, every dimension, every galaxy, every world, every person, every molecule, every atom, every quark. God is in every experience in an infinite universe. God is experience. And every experience that you have, God is sharing that experience. Now, this concept is almost as difficult to understand as infinity itself, but bear with me. Perhaps it will become a bit more clear by the time you've completed the PDQ course. When God said, "I am that I am," to Moses in Exodus 3:12, he said it all. But scholars have interpreted those words in a variety of ways. The words were spoken to Moses in the ancient Hebrew language, which does not have a present, past, or tense of the future, no indications of time in that language, and so the words come to have a different meaning in the context of an infinite universe. The words are better understood with the simple addition of a comma or a pause after the word that. I am that. I am. That would signify all that is. That. I am that and that. An infinite God would be all that is. He would be that and that and that and everything else. That is infinity. Our quest for parallel dimensions will skirt the spiritual dimension. For now, let us examine how this knowledge can help you to be a better human being, a secure, satisfied, happy human being with the knowledge that you would have had if you had a mentor of superhuman abilities. But that's what you'll be seeking in your quest. In our PDQ program, you'll find techniques and methods of using your mind as never before presented by anyone. The methods and techniques are so unique, so fantastically usable, that it would be a wonder if you didn't see a major change in your attitude, your decision-making, your health, and your life in general. One of the prime techniques of PDQ, as it is in many of my seminars, is the use of the bhaga. This is an ancient technique that I learned during my early days of training in yoga when I was a disciple of the great Swami Paramahansa Yogananda. The year was 1949. I was introduced to the technique that enabled me to instantly relax and meditate. Now I use the bhaga to smooth the progress of a goal, an objective, either major or something simpler like traffic control or parking places. Sounds silly, I know, but it works. I'll explain the technique in more detail in a bit. The method is quite simple. It's touching the tip of your tongue to your palate, the roof of your mouth, for just a moment, while thinking of what it is that you want to happen. But for now, please allow me to tell you how I use the concepts you're about to learn. Now, what I'm about to say will at first appear to be confusing, but it happened exactly as I say. I'll tell you a tiny bit about a few of my experiences. I'm a Hall of Fame photographer, but I don't know a thing about photography. I find myself a fantastic singer, a vocalist, and yet I can't sing a lick. My art hangs in museums, but the skill of painting eludes me. My books are sold all over the world, but as I barely squeak through high school, I scarcely know a comma from a semicolon. My seminars are filled to capacity throughout the United States and Europe whenever I talk, but I've never been a public speaker. My therapeutic hypnotherapy practice is renowned in the United States and Europe, but I don't know a thing about hypnosis. I'm considered a world-class healer, but I don't have a clue how alternate healing methods work. I'm one of the most relaxed people on the planet, and I'm under a great deal of stress. My poems have been compared with T.S. Eliot, but I don't know a thing about poetry. My feng shui classes are world-renowned, and many people consider me a master of the art, but I have no training in feng shui, and the list goes on and on. Now, how is it possible to make sense of what I just said? And yet, it all comes together when you apply an almost mystical, magical acronym, PDQ, Parallel Dimension Quest. Let me tell you a story, because you've spent some of your hard-earned money to hear this, and so I don't want to hold anything back. I want you to say, after listening and acting on all of the PDQ modules, that it was the best money you ever spent. It all began almost 80 years ago. I was 2 years old at the time. I had many helpers. They were all in my mind, but I had no way to judge the reality of that. For me, the world of the mind and the physical world were one and the same. All of my helpers were women. That's probably because at that age I only knew women. My mother, my cousin, my aunts, my grandmother. So it was no wonder that they would be in my inner world as well. There were 8 or 10 of them. It was as though I lived in a harem. All I had to do was close my eyes, and there they were, helping me, guiding me, implanting information in my infantile brain. Nothing sexual. I was, after all, on the planet barely a blink. But I do recall feelings of warmth, syrupy warmth, spreading through my body whenever they visited me, which was often, every day. They were with me a full year before they vanished. Where did they go? I now believe that my infantile mind was still attached to a spiritual tie, perhaps a former life. And as I became more and more familiar with words and the world around me, the tie was broken. With their leaving, so went the memory of my informational harem. The recall came much, much later in life, when one of my doppelgangers, a doppelganger is a twin self in another dimension, one of my doppelgangers brought the scenes back to me, and suddenly I understood. I realized how I became a photographer, a songster, a hypnotist, a philosopher, a writer, a healer, a poet, and all the other things that one is and does, often without realizing the source of the talent, the foundation of one's life, what I would call a source foundation. A source foundation is a point of time or a specific event that opens you to a choice. As there's choice involved, there are divisions of your life events that leave the mainstream and have far-reaching effects. Let me give you an example of this. Hypothetically, you're 21 years old. You're invited to a New Year's Eve party. When you arrive, the host asks you to contribute $20 to cover the cost of the liquor and food. You become insulted, feeling that you were invited. You're a guest. It's rather poor manners on the part of the host to ask you for money. So you leave and go to another party where you meet the person who eventually becomes your spouse. You have 3 children who grow into adults, and they have children. You have 7 grandchildren. The source foundation for that family is a $20 bill. The fork in the road of life that you were on was taking you to a particular place. You would have met different people at the party, and the road you were on would have led you to a different life. Instead, you chose a branch of the road that took you away from what might have been. If you had paid the $20 and stayed at the first party, you would not have met your spouse and would have had no children with that spouse, and etc. So that $20 bill actually represented a fork in the road, so to speak, a turning point of one of the major factors in your life. And chances are you wouldn't even know it. Now, in another dimension, you stayed at that party and you had a new person to meet, a new spouse, a new family. Each choice you make breaks off into another dimension. There are as many source foundations in one's life as there are opportunities for choice. Each time a choice presents itself, a source foundation is created. These source foundations are like endless branches of the road you happen to be on at the time. But each one of those choices happened. Each time you made a choice, your reality split off into another dimension. In a parallel dimension, you paid the $20, as I've said. You enjoyed the party, and you didn't meet the person that you ultimately wed and raised a family with. The source foundation of the parallel dimension is the one that you'll be learning to jump into as we progress into the PDQ modules. In your life, there are an infinite number of probabilities. There are also a number of possibilities. The probabilities will come to be when you stay on the road you're most comfortable with and make no changes. Of course, this is impossible for you to know. Only in retrospect can you look back and see the times you branched off and took the right fork in the road instead of the left. As example, Ronald Reagan was a contract actor who played in mostly B pictures in 1945. He was a liberal Democrat, but spent most of his time not in politics, but in reading scripts, generally Westerns. It was more likely that he would turn out to be a romantic lead in motion pictures than it was that he would become the president of the United States. But those forks in the road are infinite. Anything that can be imagined is happening now in a parallel dimension. Ronald Reagan's presidency wasn't a probability, but it was a possibility, or it couldn't have happened. But in the world of infinity, anything can happen. What was the original source foundation that led him off the actor's road that he was on? Only he could tell you that, and chances are if he was around today, even he couldn't tell you. Imagine a wide road in front of you with thousands of forks or branches that curve off the main road. Each branch of the road leads to a split off of dimension and carries you into an alternate dimension. Most are insignificant, leading nowhere in particular, but many others are significant, leading to success, happiness, and peace of mind. It's up to you to choose when you come to a turning point. Take a choice you have, at a restaurant, say. You're deciding between a fish entree and a meat entree for dinner. No life-changing source foundations there, just a tiny little fork off the main road. But what if you chose fish and the fish were tainted and made you ill? And the doctor that attended you had you stay at home for 2 days and you missed an opportunity to purchase a commodity that would have eventually made you wealthy. Then the Source Foundation would not be a small offshoot, but a large one. The main road is always there. The branches appear whenever there's choice involved. All of the new Source Foundations have a hierarchy. On a scale of 1 to 100, a Source Foundation that has no effect whatever would be a 1, while a life-changing Source Foundation would be in the 80s or 90s, and a terminal Source Foundation would be a 100. We'll be examining these Source Foundations, these branches of the road, especially those that are creating problems in your life. Also important are those that have created benefits for you. The mental conditioning exercises that I call alpha level, will enable you to get inspiration from a parallel dimension. In addition, you're going to be learning about your doppelganger. This is a word that signifies a double, a twin self. Your twin in another dimension, a counterpart. In an infinite universe, there are many duplicates of yourself. Some good, some not good. What we'll be seeking out are the successful doppelgangers, the duplicate selves that are already successful in the endeavor that you want to master and that you want to get stimulation from and that you want to get motivation from. With the use of the alpha level, you'll learn a technique to tap into this other you, this doppelganger, this twin. But more than a twin, another you. Brought up differently, perhaps, educated differently, certainly in a different culture, possibly a different culture, a genius in what it is you're trying to correct? Absolutely. Perhaps even a savant. This twin is in another dimension, what the scientists call a parallel universe, a parallel dimension. You'll always choose the success parallel dimension, and the reasons will be clear as we progress with the PDQ modules. The jumping off place for reaching this parallel is being at the alpha level. You being at the alpha level, that's the jump, the jumping off place. The PDQ method for reaching the success dimension is called quantum jumping. When you build a conscious Source Foundation, you are creating the ultimate in goal-setting strategies. The concept of jumping into a parallel dimension is that all of the Source Foundations you can imagine have already taken place in another dimension. Infinity is all there is, everything. When you visit a parallel dimension where your doppelganger is successful and is doing the thing that you want to do, that you're going after, then the Source Foundation has already been set. It's already been used, and it has already manifested into your goal completed. You'll be learning to set these seeds of life that we call Source Foundations by using the skills of a double, a twin you, a doppelganger in a parallel dimension. Your counterpart, your doppelganger, will give you the inspiration you need to achieve success in whatever area of your life you choose to use the new energies from your quantum jump. The Napoleon Hill Mastermind Group touches on that, but he never actually knew that's what he was doing, just as the Silva Counselor concept does. The laboratory represents an alternate universe, and the counselor, your doppelganger. Many success philosophies offer similar things, just as many psychologists will use a particular method of concentrating your attention on the present and reducing regrets. It's that it is possible that our method of using doppelgangers in other dimensions is just another psychological method of having a person search out and develop their own latent powers. Well, if it is, then here's a whole new psychology, because it works. And one of the things that help it to work is the next module, quantum jumping. There'll be lots of different quantum jumping taught in these CDs. in these modules, and every jump is designed to bring out your hidden resources, your skills and talents. Jumping into an alternate dimension takes advantage of the many choices in front of you. At the moment, you go along with things as they are, but every time the choice comes along, and there are hundreds of choices to be made every day, there's a split off as one of your cells, one of those selves of yours, chooses. These choices branch off the main road of life. Quantum jumping will give you control over the choices that you make. On the next module, we have our first quantum jump, a mental exercise in relaxation and goal setting. A quantum jump takes you to the dimension where you've already solved the problem. Quantum jumping is a highly relaxed, emotionless, 10-cycle brainwave state that will help you to achieve the things you want. Quantum jumping opens you to choice. When you're relaxed and in the alpha state, the choices open to you become more evident. What you're about to experience has been called meditation. It has been called going to level or the alpha level. It has been called centering. It has been called an altered state of consciousness. It has even been called hypnosis or trance. It's been called so very many things because no one really knows exactly what it is. I call it what it is, the alpha level, because when you're in this meditation state or altered state of consciousness, you're concentrated on your thoughts and more likely to become aware of the many choices that lead to different places. The alpha level isn't hypnosis, and yet it is an altered state of consciousness. I first studied yoga 50 years ago, and so I knew a bit about meditation. Hypnosis isn't meditation, and yet it is, as they're both altered states of consciousness. I've been teaching people all over the world about alpha thinking, going to the alpha level. The way that we'll be using it will be as a jumping off place for what comes next. The alpha level is an inward feeling of a concentrated sense of attention. The more concentrated that attention is, the more that you are in a trance, meditating in the alpha state, an altered state of consciousness, or even prayer. And so we find that no matter what you call it, you can concentrate your sense of attention. If you can concentrate your sense of attention, you will be in a place where your holographic energies are open to input. Your first excursion to quantum jumping is to lay a foundation for what comes next. All you have to do is to follow my instructions. I'll be your guide. I'll guide you to a parallel universe, a parallel dimension, to greet one of your doppelgangers, a twin self, for the first time, and to see if you can get that twin self to talk to you, to give you a piece of advice. But first, just a toe dip to get you used to the idea of quantum jumping. The first one is just a peek into the infinity of possibilities. And now the quantum jump. We'll begin on the following module, so you want to find yourself a comfortable place where you'll be undisturbed for 10 minutes or so, and we'll experience together quantum jumping. And on the next module, on the module following the next one, you'll get specific instruction on how to use the powerful force of conscious source foundations by seeing how the choice that you're unsure of worked for a twin self in a parallel dimension. You'll be able to kind of check it out before you do it, so to speak. Check it out with someone who has done it. But for now, make yourself comfortable. When we do this alpha exercise, you'll just follow along with my words as I guide you. You'll find yourself, after getting to the relaxed alpha level, in front of a door. You'll be in a small hallway. In front of a door, a transit door. Beyond the door are all of the different dimensions, infinitely, an infinite, numberless amount of dimensions. In one of them, your twin self is going through the situation that is causing you problems. In another dimension, your twin self is going through a different situation. One is where the problem has been solved. In another one, there is no problem. You'll be observing all situations, and you'll remember the one that is not causing the problem. That is the one that you will focus on. That's the one that will help you to change your attitude. To get through to the other dimensions, you have only to open the door and jump through. The dimensions are on the other side. I will guide you. Thank you.